pray is they figured out, since I could pray for the Navy SEAL Team 6 and I could pray for our United States military services, I could do it here. Well, however, 3 years ago, I faced a difficult challenge in my career, and it was Kelly Shackleford, First Liberty, that came to my side. Much of what you'll hear from his clients, like Coach Joe Kennedy and religious liberty, the First Amendment. So I won my case, exonerated, and came out of the Navy to Chicago to be a pastor here. And I have pastored the last 3 years here at Roland Park with Mr. Mayor, key people. It's great to be a part of a great state. God has called me on to be the Chief Executive Officer of the Cherry Street Mission Ministries in Toledo, Ohio. So I get my assignments from the Lord, and I continue to try to catch up to what God has already planned. Amen? I don't know what He's doing in my life next, but now I'm here to pray for this food. And I'm so grateful to just ask you, if you would, please join me as we just return thanks. Heavenly Father, we are thankful this evening because you're a holy God, you're a faithful God, and Lord, we need your strength and wisdom, and we pray for all the leaders in this room. We pray for the great state of Illinois, finding her way back to you. Help us, Lord, in government service. Help us, Lord, to be faithful to the high calling that you've placed on us as we try to influence our country, because we want to follow you. We ask that you bless this evening, the speaker, all the events, bless the conversation and fellowship. We thank you, Lord, for your great mercy. Bless our food this evening and all those who have worked so hard to prepare this great meal. In Jesus' name, amen.
If I can now interrupt everyone, because again, we are Republicans, so we have to please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in
weeks ago and heard her sing God Bless America, and it literally brought tears to my eyes. So I figured I would do one more good song tonight to really listen to. Remain seated. Miss Ruby, you got it?
Yeah.
Yes. So I am singing God Bless America, and please remain seated because we love food. We know it. We're big God. We love food, but yes, food and music is the best. So here we go. Hungry. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam, and God bless America, my home sweet home, and God bless America, my home sweet home, and God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her with the light through the night from above, through the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam, and God bless America, my home sweet home. Thank you. God bless everyone.
Now we move on to the dinner portion. So as the young ladies will come around, we are directing the table. So please finish your salads, and we will start our dinner service here very shortly. Thank you. Let's start talking guest speaker and Dr. Meyer.
Walk by and rubbed her up. You probably didn't know.
It's my distinct privilege to introduce our most honored speaker this evening. As you know my story, if you Googled me by now, you will know that there were many lawyers who ran away and a lot of people who would take a stand for truth. Not everybody wants to run to the sound of the guns when they need to do that. That takes courage. Kelly Shackleford is distinguished president and CEO of First Liberty Institute. It's the largest legal firm in the nation dedicated exclusively to protecting religious liberty for Americans. I had no idea that religious liberty was under attack as I was serving my country. It was First Liberty, they were the first ones in my home. It was Kelly Shackleford that stood next to me all the way through. This distinguished lawyer has stood before the Supreme Court and has defended many cases. You wouldn't know it because he's very unassuming and he's very humble, not necessarily looking for any recognition. He has been in the White House, he's been in the Oval Office, he is a leader in the country of how to defend religious liberty. You can read his entire bio and your program for further information. He has become a personal friend. There is this amazing law firm in Plano, Texas. I would love for you to give a nice Republican Will County welcome to one of the greatest lawyers that I have ever known.
Well, this is a lot of fun. I've met so many great people running for office. I wish I could bring some of you back home where I am. You've got an abundance of blessing here. It looks like you've got some great officials, and then I think you got some more on the way. Let me start out with what's First Liberty. First Liberty is the largest legal organization in the country that all we do is religious freedom. So if you're a fifth grade boy, your name is Giovanni Rubio in one of our cases. And you're told you can bring any book you want to free reading time in school until you bring your Bible. And then they say, well, you can't bring religious books to school. Well, what do? If you're a poor family like Giovanni and you live outside of Miami-Dade, you can't go hire a team of lawyers. So we bring in the best litigators in the country. They donate their time. We represent Giovanni, which we did, and we won the case. Not only for Giovanni and his family, but because that sets a precedent that protects all of our children in our country. So that's the best summary I can give you for what we do. How did I get involved in this? Back when I was in high school, I knew my gifts were in analytical thinking and speaking, and I thought I needed to be a pastor or a lawyer. And people said, that's like a God or Satan choice, isn't it, to be a pastor or a lawyer? And, I analyzed my DNA and I realized I'd probably do better at dispensing justice rather than mercy, so I'd probably be a better lawyer than a pastor. And I went to law school and finished law school, clerked for a federal judge. You do that for 1 year, you sort of research and write opinions. And at the end of that, you get a lot of nice offers because you know what it's like to kind of be on the other side of the bench. What's over the line, what's persuasive, what's not, what loses credibility. And so the big law firms give you a lot of nice offers. And I just thought, I just don't feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. I feel like I'd suffocate in that arena. I just don't feel like that's my calling. And I sat in my little clerk's office in the federal court, and I said, well, what do you want to do? And I thought, I want to use my legal skills. I feel like I've been shown I should do that because of how I did in law school, but I want to help pastors and churches and religious freedoms and our founding principles, and I didn't like to go to seminary. And I laughed because there was no job that paid me money to do those things. And about 2 weeks later, two partners in big national law firms, never met these guys, called me out of the blue and said, will you go to lunch? I said, sure. So I went to lunch. They said, look, we started donating our time for religious freedom. We're not getting so many calls, it's hurting our ability to make a living. So we were wondering, would you be willing to come on, do legal cases, help pastors, churches, religious freedoms, and our founding principles, and you can even go to seminary part-time if you want to. Now, being about 24, maybe a little young, immature in my faith, I said, let me pray about it. Like that wasn't an answer to prayer. And the next day I said yes, and they pitched in out of their pocket to get me started. And 30 years and 6 months ago is when that happened. 30 years and 6 months later, First Liberty is the largest legal organization in the country. But all we do is religious freedom. Should you even care about religious freedom? What if you're not a religious person? Is it important to you? The answer is absolutely. It's our first freedom. Our founders called it our first freedom for a reason, because they understood if you lose this freedom, you'll lose all your freedoms. And so I thought maybe a good place to start is just to show you a guy who's not a religious guy at all, who's one of our supporters, and just a testimony he gives about why he thinks this is important.
Somebody told us that we were going to be rolling through barbed wire fences and escaping and moving across the oceans of America. Everybody would have said that's absolutely something that would never happen.
Sorry about the speakers not working on this. That's Peter Calvin's. Peter came up to me, this happens all the time as I speak all over the country. I'll have people come up to me like Peter. Peter came up and said, I'm not a person of faith, I don't have those beliefs. He said, I think what you guys are doing is the most important thing anybody's doing in this country. He said, I saw this happen in Czechoslovakia. He said, they took down the religious symbols, and within 2 months we all lost our political freedoms. And handed me a check for $5,000, and I'm going to support you guys from now on. And he's not even a person of faith. He just understands religious freedom and what it means to his political freedoms and all of his freedoms. And the best way I can describe this when people try to understand why this is true is the one thing that a totalitarian regime can never allow are citizens who hold an allegiance to one higher than the government. So whenever that type of an oppressive regime comes in, the first flashpoint will almost always be religious freedom. There are these people that will not bow their knee to the government. And if they lose, you'll lose everything. And that's the battle. So that being how it is everywhere, how are we doing in the United States? Well, I probably don't have to convince you that I've been doing this over 30 years, and I've never seen anything like the levels of attacks that we're seeing. I think 8 years ago we had 40 cases. Last year we had 300 cases. So it gives you a little feel for how things are going. So I thought I would run through. I can't obviously go through 800 or 300 cases. So I'm just going to quickly go through a few to give you a feel for what's going on out there. Let me start with Hannah. Hannah Allen. Hannah's a 13-year-old girl who, at her school, one of her classmates got hurt in a tractor incident, and they were in 8th grade, and she, at lunchtime, gathered a number of her friends and said, hey, let's get together and pray for him, because they just heard he'd been hurt. They did that, they prayed for this young man. As soon as they finished, the principal walked over and said, don't you ever do that again. Well, that didn't go over too well with a lot of the parents. So they went to the principal, and the next day, the principal went back to these kids and said, okay, you can pray, but if you're going to do that in the future, you have to go behind this curtain. And at that point, we contacted the school district. They ended up apologizing to Hannah, correcting this, making clear that they didn't have to be ashamed and hide behind the curtain when they prayed, etc. But just to show you how bad this stuff is, Hannah was just in the White House about 4 weeks ago. The president announced an initiative on new guidelines in public schools for religious freedom. And a couple of our clients were there, Hannah and Coach Kennedy. And the president's sitting at the resolute desk, and right when he finishes, he turns to Hannah, they asked to stand right next to him. He said, Hannah, why don't you tell your story? I mean, I can't imagine as a 13-year-old girl being asked 100 TV cameras. She did a beautiful job. If you ever want to go to First Liberty's, either our Facebook page or something, you can watch. It's only a minute long. She did a wonderful job. Well, the school district had decided that they were embarrassed by this. So they proceeded to send a letter to everybody in the school district attacking Hannah, 13-year-old. So the grown-ups are the ones acting like children. So we're now in the process of making sure that they feel some pain for engaging in bullying with their little girls. Senior citizens living facilities. So there are cases now we have them all over the country. Donna Dunbar is one of those cases. This is out of Florida. I think the sign says everything on this picture. They literally, they got a piano in the common area room, and it says any and all Christian music is banned. And you're like, oh, come on, the attorneys made the sign up. No, that's what they did. It's a great piece of evidence for religious discrimination. And you think, well, that's just outrageous, to do that to somebody in a senior living facility where they live. And can't get any worse than Donna Dunbar. Well, you hadn't met Ken Howdy, another one of our cases. Ken is an 85-year-old retired minister. And of course, a lot of people in these facilities can't go anywhere. They're maybe in a wheelchair, they're maybe not able to go to some sort of religious service. So they came to Ken and they said, Ken, would you be willing to just do a Bible study once a week so we can have some sort of religious service? He said, sure, there's a common area room. Anybody can use that. I'll just put it in and use it, and we'll do that. Well, he did. And they said, well, you can use the room, but not if you're going to have a Bible study. So he was shocked, as a minister, 85-year-old minister. He thought, okay, well, that's okay. I'll just do it in my apartment. He is now has received an eviction notice telling him he will be evicted from his apartment if he holds a Bible study in his apartment. I mean, you know, I can't think of anything more cruel. People who can't go anywhere, and you're telling them they can never have another religious service, discussion, anything the rest of their lives. That's just massively against the law. But this is happening all over. Now, the good news is both Kim's case and Don Dunbar's case is we have won pretty significant wins in both of those cases in the last couple of months. Not just a small win, but a crushing win against these groups that have done this. But this is happening all over the country. These are not isolated incidents. I think a lot of you have heard about the Klein case. This is a sweet case, and Aaron and Melissa Klein. Melissa is a baker, and she just really got good at being a baker. And they eventually got enough where they could actually have their own, their own business and their own storefront. And their whole goal was to pass this on to their 5 children. And they did a great job. They had people come to them. They sold to everybody. They didn't care who you were. They had a lesbian couple come to them. They didn't say, we're not going to sell you things. But then this couple said, we want you to do a custom wedding cake for us. Well, Melissa she did wedding cakes custom, but only through her biblical understanding. She would put verses, she would do all this. So she told them, so I'm sorry, I can't because of my faith, but I'm happy to refer you to somebody else to do a great job. Well, the next thing they know, the state of Oregon is coming after them. You probably heard about this case. They were fined $135,000. Their business was bankrupted. They were ordered by the judge not to speak publicly their beliefs about marriage. That's not a violation of the First Amendment, right? And the judge said they needed to be, quote, rehabilitated. Did you know that? So, again, good news is we just got a victory at the Supreme Court on this last summer, overturning the bad decision below of the Oregon Court of Appeals, but it's not over. They said, we're vacating this decision, we're sending it back down, we're going to give you one more chance to get this right. But look, Aaron and Melissa have been going through this for 6 to 7 years. I mean, death threats to their kids, and they could have moved out of Oregon. There's lots of states that said, come here, do your bakery, and I think they would have had a thriving business. But they're staying there because they know if they move, their case will be over. And they want their case to be over and win because everybody else is depending upon it. So these are the kind of heroes we have really fighting across the country and what they're having to go through. I can tell you over and over cases about churches, synagogues that we're representing all over the country. One of them, I'll give you an example, is a case where they literally, I think we've got a picture, they put a swastika on the rabbi's car, trying to get them to leave the community. And told them this is my favorite, this synagogue was in violation because they weren't meeting the zoning code. And so what do you mean? They meet every zoning code. No, they don't have enough parking spaces. Okay, these are Orthodox Jews. They walk to synagogue on the Sabbath from their home. And that was the big sticking point. They're refusing to budge on that. So, I mean, we have some horrible cases in New York City right now. We have some synagogues where, literally one town that's already been proven in a litigation years ago, that they formed for the specific reason of getting rid of Orthodox Jews from the community. So you'd think these things only happen in Germany or somewhere else, and they're happening in the United States. The Hensley case. This is one that you probably recognize. Yeah, I can see that being the case. Diana Hensley is a wonderful woman. Ran and became Justice of the Peace. And they came to her and said, look, you can do weddings. It's not a part of your duties as Justice of the Peace, but you can do them. We're just telling you, though, if you do them, you better do it for everybody or you can get in trouble. And, of course, that's talking about, doing, gay weddings or transgender weddings or whatever. And she's a person of faith. In fact, every one of those Justice of the Peace in that area had conscience issues with doing weddings that weren't a man and a woman. So they just didn't do them. Well, Diane came up and she said, that's just not right. I've got people who are poor. I've got people who who are out of the military who would like us to do this, and we're not providing this, this for those people. She said, I think we can find a way to accommodate everybody. So she came up with that way, which is if anybody came to her and either she had a schedule conflict or she had a conscience issue, she had somebody literally 2 doors down that was ready to do the wedding at the same cost, no inconvenience, everything taken care of. Everybody was really happy. Nobody complained. But the local newspaper did a story on this. And the next thing you know, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct wrote her up and censored her and said if she does it again, they're going to take her out of office, despite the fact that she was elected. So I've got to admit, we really enjoyed filing that lawsuit against the Commission on Judicial Conduct, saying you're violating the Constitution and the First Amendment. This is exactly what we want people to do, is to accommodate, to find a way where everybody can live together, even with different beliefs. That's what America is supposed to be about. The last ones I'll tell you about, just real quick, I'm just trying to give you a quick feel, would be the military cases. We've had a number of those. When Chaplain Otter was one of those years ago, but we've had a ton of them. One of the biggest we have right now is the POW MIA case. And this is, I don't know if you've seen one of these tables. These POW MIA tables are a round table that have like a place setting, rows. The whole idea is to say, we're waiting for you to come back. And there's a Bible on the table. Well, this one was put up by the POW MIA group in New Hampshire, and it was put up in the VA. And a lawsuit has been filed ordering them to take the Bible off of the POW MIA table. Now, that would be ridiculous enough if it was just a regular table. And I don't know if you can see the word Herc on this Bible. This Bible was given by a 96-year-old man who spent 9 months in a German prisoner of war camp. And the Bible was what got him through. And so he wanted to donate his Bible for this. And think of this, the intolerance of somebody filing a lawsuit to say this private group that has its display has a Bible in it, and I'm so offended that I want the government to tell them they have to remove a Bible off of their display. I mean, it's just outrageous. So the cases are, again, you probably couldn't pick any of the cases we're working on and have convinced me 10 years ago you're going to have to work on that case. They just seem to get worse and worse. The last one I'll tell you about, I think it's a very important case, is the Shields of Strength. And I don't know whether this is going to, I'm going to show you a video in a second. If the sound doesn't work, we'll cut that off and I'll just tell you about it. But I don't know if you've seen these. These are, Shields of Strength is the one, it's a guy by the name of Kenny Bond started it. And he is just an incredible guy. And what he decided to do is, he came up with these little sort of dog tags that have scripture verses on them. And a lot of people in the military, I mean a lot, I think 200,000 people in the military have asked for these. And the most common one is the one that's from Joshua 1 that says, be strong and courageous, says the Lord. And there's a lot of people, that in the military, there's times they're scared. To be able to look down and to see that is really important to them. And, somebody's now complained after 20 years of people in the military having, it's pretty much not a unit anywhere that doesn't have this, but people have wondered. And unfortunately, all of a sudden, after 20 years, our military has decided as of today that they're going to ban them and not allow them, which we're going to get overturned. So we're in the process now of fighting that. Let me see if it's just a 3-minute video. If the sound works, we'll check it out.
Almost 7 weeks ago, an Army Major was laid to rest in Section 60. Russell Rippertoe served with distinction in the Operation Iraqi Freedom, earning both the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart.
Okay. That's okay. I was talking. And this is actually the president talking about Rippertoe, the first guy to die in Afghanistan, and how much that Shield of Strength meant to him and his family. And there's literally people that's all they get back is that dog tag. The idea that some troublemaker can make a complaint after 20 years and try to shut this down for everybody in the military that wants one of these is really outrageous. And so that's one we're going to fight until we win, and we're going to keep fighting. depressing speaker to lay out all these bad cases. So ruin my evening. But let me tell you the good news. We have a method of dealing with this, and it's not a theory or something that we hope works. It's something we've been doing for a long time, and that is, if you were to watch a normal nonprofit legal group, I don't care if they're left wing or right wing or what their perspective is, they have the same motto, which is raise as much money as you can raise, use that money to hire as many attorneys as you can, put those attorneys in an office in like DC or LA or New York, and then fly them around and cover with me your cases, your issues you can cover. That's not our model. Our model is there's all these people of faith who went to law school because they wanted to stand for what was right. And 30 years later, these are now literally the best litigators at some of the best law firms in the country, in fact, in the world. And they've done honorable work for their clients, but they've never got to do a case for their faith in the country. So we go and we sit down with those best of the best, and we say, look, if we give you everything that you need, are you willing to give your time on these cases? They're like, man, I've been waiting my whole life to sign you. We know what's going to happen when we give them that first case. I mean, for the first time in their life, all their talent, all their training, everything they've learned through the years, for the first time is lined up with their faith and love for the country. And they've never felt that before. So it's kind of unfair, but we now know we have it for the rest of their lives as one of our volunteer attorneys. And they get covered, all the younger attorneys. They now get to work on the cases, and they get to take some of the slack. So if you were to go through the top 100 law firms in the United States, most of those firms don't just donate their time, they'll fight each other over who gets to donate their time on these cases. And the result of this is twofold, one of which I was planning. I thought, we can get a lot more bang for our buck as a nonprofit if we can get these attorneys to give their time. And sure enough, average case, every 10,000 we spend, we get 60,000 donated. So it's like a 6-to-1 multiplication or leveraging of our resources. What I didn't count on was the win-loss ratio. And that is, if you watch in the nonprofit world, they're fighting big monsters, the government, big things. So if they're really good, they might win 40% of their cases. Our win right now, 20 years in a row, every single year has been above 90%, every single year. That's because this model is the right model. I mean, it's the way every major corporation does their work. And we're the only nonprofit legal group in the country that does this. I mean, if you're Ford Motor Company in Detroit, Michigan, and you get sued in, Illinois, or Texas, or you name it, do you send your Detroit attorneys to Texas to defend? Of course you don't. You get the best litigators in that area to defend. That's what every major corporation does. And we're the only ones that do that. So when we have a case in Idaho, our attorneys are the best law firm in Idaho. When they walk in and they look at the judge, they were in first grade together and lost a tooth together. The ACLU guy that's coming in from New York City is playing an away game. And he doesn't know the jury, he doesn't know the community, and so, add to that the law is on our side in favor of religious freedom. We should win these cases, and we are. And normally that's where I would end what I was talking about. But something very unusual is happening now. I've been doing this for 30 years, and last year I was telling people as I was speaking, I really think we have a chance to change history. I see things shifting, I see opportunities, and I can't say that anymore, because what I have to say now is we literally are changing history right now. There is stuff happening that I didn't think possible in my lifetime, and I'm watching them happen. So what am I talking about? Let me start with judges. We were getting ready for a Hillary Clinton presidency, and we were going to, how do we advance religious freedom under a Hillary Clinton presidency? And we had our ideas and what we're going to try to do. And then this Trump guy won. And we were like, okay, we have to reevaluate. We have to see what opportunities are there under him. And we saw a lot. And one of the first ones we saw is 140 judicial seats waiting to be filled for life. These are lifetime appointments. And we thought, that would affect a lot of the future of religious freedom. And so, we looked at what we needed to do. The problem was, I went to my board and said, look, we've got this opportunity, but I can't pull people off of Supreme Court cases to work on vetting judges. I mean, I don't have extra people for this. And they said, well, what do we need budget-wise? And I said, we need about $2.3 million every 2 years to be able to put this operation in play. Because you can only go in two-year cycles because the Senate has to confirm and that could change. And they said, well, let's see if we can find the money. And within, I bet, 2 weeks, I got a call from a guy and he said, hey, I don't want you to wait to start this until you get the money because you're going to miss things. He said, so I want you to start. The only reason I voted for Trump was judges. So I'm giving you $1 million over the next 2 years so that you can start this thing. The result of that is Justice Gorsuch on the court. Justice Gorsuch was not the #1 pick. Nobody knows this, but he was the #3 pick. But #1 and #2 had some poor decisions that nobody had bothered to read but us. And when we showed them to people, they got knocked off the list, and that's why we have Justice Gorsuch, who I think is an excellent, excellent justice. And he's written more on religious freedom than any judge I'd ever seen before they got on that court. Kavanaugh donated time with me 20 years ago as a young attorney on religious freedom. He's been committed his whole life to that issue. But what's more important even, I mean, everybody watches that, is all the Lord work. And think of our system. We work by having attorneys everywhere. And I mean the best attorneys in the country, everywhere. So now you got a president who comes in and needs to fill seats all over the country. And they're like, who's really good? Who's a really top lawyer over here in this part of the country? Does anybody know? Yeah, we do. So guess what? I've lost count of how many of our volunteer attorneys have now become federal judges. One of my own employees at 38 years old was picked to be a federal judge for the rest of his life. And this guy's brilliant, he's conservative, and he'd rather die than turn from the Constitution. You'll never have to worry about him. He'll be on the court for the next 40 years. So I want to show you the map, and I'll tell you a couple of, I'll do that next. That's the first one. That's the first 2 years. I'll hold on to that. Let's talk about appellate alone. There are about 179 appellate judges, courts of appeals. That's where most of the cases end in federal courts. Only 75 make the Supreme Court. So everything ends there. Well, in 8 years, Obama confirmed 55 Court of Appeals judges. In 3 years, we were at 50. 8 years, 55. 3 years, 50. Okay? That is a sea change. That's changing, massively changing all the courts of appeals. But even more importantly than the numbers is who are these people? Well, who was number 50? Number 50 was a guy by the name of Lawrence Van Dyke. Lawrence Van Dyke was #1 in his class in Harvard Law School. Was the Solicitor General of the state of Nevada. And Lawrence is so conservative that I'm liberal compared to Lawrence. Lawrence was confirmed to the 9th Circuit for the rest of his life at age 46 years old. That's changed. San Francisco goes from liberal to Lawrence Van Dyke. Okay? And so, but let me show you just the numbers of what's happening. This is the first 2 years. How many judges? And that's 85 judges. That's a lot, right? When you think of the future and how many years, again, say they average 25 or 30 years, you literally are changing the future of the country. Let me show you what we've gotten through and what we will get through by the end of this year. Okay? Another 170. 85 to 170 more. See the pace, we're basically doubling the pace. And this will dramatically change the future of the courts. And that's what we're planning to do. We're treating this year like, there won't be any other years. No slot needs to be left open. So they're all going to be filled with good judges. And this really does change the future of the country. So that's one of the reasons I'm saying I'm seeing stuff that I never thought possible. But just on the religion clauses, I'm seeing that as well. There are 2 religion clauses. One is the free exercise clause and one is the establishment clause. So they both have a bad case that has caused incredible damage to religious freedom for 50 years, 30 years, basically most of our lifetime. And if you would have asked me 4 years ago, can you get rid of those cases? One of them's called Lemon, and one of them's called Smith. I would have said, no, not in our lifetime probably, but we can pick away at it. We're in the process of now blowing up both of those bad cases. One of them came during the Warren Court, which is during the liberal times of the 60s and 70s. Again, everything is about to change. So free exercise clause, this Smith decision. Basically, it's made it to where you can't bring a free exercise claim. If you do what I do, you bring a free speech claim, and you say it's religious speech, and therefore it gets protected. Which is sad, because the free exercise clause is basically new for many decades. Well, we have a case, Coach Kennedy case. And I don't know if we got it. Coach Kennedy, 20 years a Marine, got out, was about to go in his first job as a coach, and he saw this movie on the TV called Facing the Giants. It talked about coaches and their faith, and it just convicted him. And he said, you know, I'm not a religious guy, but I'm making a pledge, God, to you, after every football game, when they go to the center of the field, to shake the other team's hand, the first thing I'm going to do is go to a knee and thank you for the privilege of coaching these young men. And so for 7 years, that's what he did. Until the school district sent him, after 7 years, a letter saying, if you go to a knee again, we're going to fire you. Well, he said, you know, I love these kids, so I don't want to leave the kids, but what kind of example am I if I cut and run as soon as there's a fire? So he went to a knee, and they fired him. Unfortunately for Coach Kennedy, he lives in the Ninth Circuit, which, by the way, were 2 seats from flipping. And they gave a typical Ninth Circuit decision, which is, they said, coaches are not allowed to pray in public if anyone can see them. That's what they said. So we went to the Supreme Court. And what you don't want at the Supreme Court is cert denied. Because they get about 9,000 requests and they only take 75 cases. All the other ones, they just say cert denied. In other words, we're not commenting one way or the other, we're just not taking it. Certiorari is denied. So we sat and waited, and we got cert denied. We were like, oh, this is horrible. Then somebody said, wait, there's a statement attached. We're like, there are never statements attached to cert denied. They don't have time for that. And you look at it and it says, this is only the 4 conservative justices, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Thomas, Alito, said, this is only cert denied for now. Go back down, there's some facts we want established, and then come back with those. And then they added this thing at the end and talked about everybody's by surprise. Said, by the way, we noticed that the first claim to reach us in this case is a free speech claim, not a free exercise claim. Maybe that's because of this Smith decision that has caused so much damage to religious freedom over the past 35 years. But we haven't been asked to review that decision yet. So we are literally on the verge of restoring the free exercise of religion to every American. I don't know whether it's going to take 2 years, 5 years. It's about to happen. Secondly, establishment clause. Establishment clause says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. What does that mean? I think almost everybody knows what the founders were trying to say. We don't want there to be an established church, but we all have to support it. But 50 years ago, in a case called Lemon, which is aptly named, the liberal Warren Court said, no, it means a lot more than that. It means separation of church and state. It means offended observer status, which means if you walk through a community and you're offended by a religious symbol, you can now bring a lawsuit. You can't bring lawsuits because you're offended, okay? Only in this one area. So they just created all this stuff. So our whole lives, if you think your whole life, all the attacks on religious symbols, menorahs, nativity scenes, 10 Commandments monuments, veterans memorials, etc., is all not because the Constitution says anything about that, but because of this bad case. So we have this case, the Bladensburg Veterans Memorial. I think you got a picture of that. Down in the corner, you can see a picture of the memorial. About almost 100 years ago, mothers in Prince George's County, Maryland, right outside of D.C., wanted to do something to remember the 49 young men who died in World War I. And they put up a memorial. And that was the memorial. You find that memorial all over the world, is what they used to remember people in World War I. Because what was happening is 14 million dead. I mean, it was a brutal war. And the pictures people were getting back, because you weren't over there. The pictures they would get back were just, as far as you could see, crosses of gravestones. They just had to make quick graves and slap a cross on them. And so that was the symbol used all over the world to represent the sacrifice made. Well, that was American Legion, that was their land, but then eventually it's right outside of D.C. They built roads around it. And when they did that, the government had to take over the property. But they didn't want to disturb the Veterans Memorial, so they didn't. And then years later go by, and the American humanists come along and say, hey, wait, you got a cross on government land. And so they brought a lawsuit. Well, we went to the Federal Court of Appeals, and there were 2 Obama appointees and 1 Clinton appointee as the 3-judge panel. And I kid you not, one of the judges, one of the Obama appointees, said in the oral argument, why don't we just cut the arms off the cross? Because that way we won't have to destroy it, but it won't offend anybody. So, needless to say, the mindset was not exactly on point with what we were looking for. And they said, tear this memorial down after 100 years. So we went to the Supreme Court. And we looked at this and we said, you know, Justice Kavanaugh's on the court, Justice Gorsuch is on the court. This has been bad for 50 years. It's time to not go for the bunt single, it's time to go for the grand slam. So we said, not only should this memorial stay, but all these attacks have to be over. All this hostility versus religion that's been caused by this bad case needs to stop. And we said Lemon needs to be overturned. And so, but we didn't know, you know, Gorsuch had never had this issue before, neither had Kavanaugh. And we knew the Chief Justice Roberts, what's he going to do? We knew we had to get 5 votes if we were going to do that. So the very first person to speak in the oral argument was Justice Gorsuch. He said, you know what? I think a lemon is like a dog's breakfast and it's lived its day. I think he's with us. And then Kavanaugh said something similar. And then the Chief said something similar. And we're like, oh my gosh, I think we're going to get 5 votes. We won the case 7-2. Do not touch this memorial. But more importantly, 5 justices said, we are not following this lemon case anymore. It's gone. And basically what just happened is for 50 years we've been going in the direction of government hostility to religion. And we just turned, and we're not going the other direction. Now this other direction has to be built out, but everything has changed. And we're seeing it, cases now coming down, they're all showing it. Like we just got a call recently from this place in South Carolina. They put up a monument to police officers. And this monument on it had a prayer, a police officer's prayer. And it mentioned the Lord 3 times. Somebody complained and they scrubbed the word Lord off of the monument 3 times. Well, a lot of people got very upset at that. And so they just took the monument away. And so we sent them a letter and said, hey, have you read the American Legion case? And they read it, and their attorneys looked at it, and they went, oh my gosh, no. So guess what they did? Put the monument back out with the prayer. That's what we're going to happen. In my mind, why this is happening. You know, I can say, boy, we're brilliant lawyers and we're just changing everything. That's not why I think this is happening. I think this is happening because the hand of God is moving. And I can give you some reasons. I don't know that the video, our sound's still not working, is it? No? Okay. I will show you a trailer from a movie. How many of you heard of or saw this movie, They Shall Not Grow Old? Okay, it came out about a year ago. Peter Jackson, the famous director, right? You know, The Hobbit and all those movies, one of the most famous directors in the world, pulled together all World War I film and colorized it and added sound that was available to it. It just brought to life for the first time World War I, which is the most brutal war we've ever seen. Okay, and you know, if you could see it, you know, I'd usually show it to like 2 minutes of a little trailer. It really is moving. And you realize, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. That was released 3 weeks before our oral argument in the Blanchard Cross case about a memorial that's put up to honor 49 young men who died in World War I. Now some of you are like, man, you must really have a great relationship with the director for him to release this right before your oral argument at the Supreme Court. Yeah, of course not. I mean, God, it'll never be able to convince me anything else. God released this film right before the argument to set the field, to fertilize the field for what was about to come. And about 2 weeks before the oral argument, I'm having lunch with our lead counsel who's going to argue the case. 30 years ago, he'd argued a very similar argument, saying Lemon should go. And so we thought he was the right person to be our lead spokesperson in the Supreme Court. And he said, you know that 30 years ago that the Justice Department actually agreed with us and said that Lemon should go? I said, yeah, I was aware of that. He said, did you know that they filed a brief in the Supreme Court? And I said, yeah. He said, do you know who authored that brief? I said, no. He said, a young attorney by the name of John Roberts. So 30 years before we ever started this case, God was already working on the guy who was going to be our swing vote 30 years later, letting him think through, look at what the proper approach to the Constitution was. So, you know, if I think we did this, I'm a fool. We played our part, but there's something happening in the country. And if I'm right, and I think I am, every American, if we do our job right over the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years, every American is about to have more freedom, religious freedom, than they've ever had in their lifetime. I really believe that's about to happen. So if that's true, sort of the natural question to us is, so what are we going to do with that? So I would just challenge you a couple of things. Our sort of motto for this year is I'm all in at First Liberty. So if you're not involved with First Liberty, I'd encourage you to jump in, get involved. You won't hear about a lot of this stuff if you're not on our list. So I know we have one of these. At every table, I think there's one of these, and it has a little card in the back. If you'll fill out the card and leave it with us, we'll put you on the list. We don't sell your stuff to anybody. We don't do that kind of stuff. It's just a way for you. I want you to be the Paul Revere's when you see stuff to tell other people. Because if we're winning cases and people don't know they have these freedoms, what do we want? I want people to be bold because they know about the freedoms that they have. And we're just increasing the size of the Army. So number one, and we've got you can also do it this way if you're like tech savvy. Just text the word Liberty to 474747. It'll send you a little form you can fill out and we'll get you on the list that way. So either way. But number two, you know, a lot of what I'm talking about is happening because of the elections. And we got another election. And do we want to go this direction or do we want to change directions? And a lot of that's going to depend upon people like you who are already making incredible sacrifices to get involved. And so I'm encouraging you to be all in over the next 10 months as well, because it's going to affect all those things. I know, again, a number of you, I just can't thank you enough. Running for office is not fun. You know, it's a sacrifice. You get beat up a lot, you run around a lot, you spend a lot of time away from your family. Thank you for doing that for our country. But we just need to be all in this year, because what's happening is really mind-boggling. And I wish I could take everybody with me and see 30 years of doing this and see how differently what's happening now is. I feel like there's a window open, and I can't take for granted that it's not going to close tomorrow. So we're just trying to rush through it with everything we've got right now. We're all in. Because this is about my children and my grandchildren and what kind of future they're going to have. And right now, I've never been more excited. But I want to end with one last story, because I think it sort of addresses something that I hear a lot and that people think a lot, which is I'm not a powerful person. What can I do? We had a case a number of years ago, and I was actually minding my own business eating lunch, and I looked down and I saw a picture of something I'd never seen, which was senior citizens holding picket signs. And I said, okay, that's interesting. And these seniors had been told that they could not pray over their meals in the senior center because it was a government building. And they couldn't sing gospel songs at the back. And one of them was a retired minister, and they would sit at the lunch table once a week and talk about the Bible, and they couldn't do that. And so we had this young guy, fresh out of the military, who just started with us as one of our attorneys. And I put the paper down in front of him and said, why don't we see if we can help these people? And before I could finish my statement, he's like peeling out of the parking lot, out to see senior. He gets out there and they say, look, we're the has-beens, we're the nobodies, we don't have any power in this town. There's these board people on the city council that control everything. He said, we never thought anybody'd help us, much less lawyers for free. And so this young attorney comes back to me and he says, okay, they shouldn't be warned, they should be destroyed. And I said, no, we're a Christian organization, we'll get the information, we'll give them a chance to do the right thing. So we sent them a letter, we said, there's this Constitution thing you really ought to read. Kind of laid it out for them. And their lawyer, I don't know if he got his law degree through the mail or what, his response was, religion is not allowed in government buildings. Well, that's not the law. And so we filed a lawsuit. And I had all the seniors with me. It was a press conference. We all meet there. At the end, I did something that I'm sure media consultants will tell you never to do, which is I said, does anybody else want to say anything? Well, at the end of the line of all the seniors is this guy, his name is Barney. He has a cowboy hat, a bolo tie, a western suit, which is his only suit, and cowboy boots. Barney walks up to the microphone and he says, I fought for these freedoms in World War II and I ain't going into the corner to pray. They can arrest me as long as it says what I was arrested for praying. He turns around and walks in the back of the room. This is a good while back. About an hour later, we get a call from Bill O'Reilly's producer saying, we want the guy in the hat. So this guy ends up all over Hannity and O'Reilly and everybody else at the time. He ends up testifying in the U.S. Senate, which, by the way, was his first plane ride. He'd been in the Navy. Just a tremendous guy, the media came out to the senior center one day, and there was this little lady, Marceline Green. She said, come here to the cameraman, and I was going, oh gosh, what's she gonna do? She pops open her trunk, and she pulls out a picket sign and it says, don't mess with grandma, she's mad. That was all over Fox. So these are the greatest plans ever. And we ended up winning a permanent injunction. They can never tell the seniors they can't pray over their meals. They can never tell them they can't go to the piano and sing gospel songs. They can never tell them that they can't read the Bible and have a Bible study if they want to. And we even won a little money for them so they could have a celebration party when it was all over. So that was kind of fun too. But my favorite part of the case is what happened after the case was over. Everybody in the city watched the powerless seniors beat the all-powerful 4 city council members in the lawsuit. And so it's like a light bulb went off in the city, and they went, well, those people aren't so all-powerful after all. So they held a recall election, and they threw all 4 of those people out. 3 years later, I got a postcard, and it was from one of the seniors, because she wanted me to know that she was now one of the new city council members. Of America. We sit around and think, what can I do? When we can do whatever we want to do if we're willing to get up and do it. And so I thank you for doing that, and I thank you for the privilege of letting me be with you today. God bless you.
I want to do something real quick, and know everybody wants to get out of here. I want to honor two people tonight that I think have just been marvelous and epitomize what we're trying to accomplish around here. The first person I've known probably over the last 15 years here in Illinois, and grew real close to her husband, and he kind of took over those times when Jack Harlow had stepped away from his chairmanship. And I still rely on that gentleman today as our lead counsel for the Central Committee. But he's always said that his backbone was always down in Springfield, serving this great state in the District 37. And it pains me to know that she's actually getting ready to retire. But the thing that gives me hope is the young man, and I do mean the young man in the future of this area that's planning to take over in that seat to continue what you actually said. That we have young people that are stepping up and will be in these seats to lead the next generation. But I would love for everyone to give someone who I think has made a lifetime achievement in Illinois in this race against all of the fight and the fire that goes on down in Springfield. I would like to bring up Miss Margot McDonough.
Yeah!
Taken aback or surprised, but guess what? It actually has been a lifetime working with the Will County Republican Organization. My entire adult life has been associated with this organization. Gosh, did that go by fast. My husband and I started, I really am showing my age, in 1980. You know, with Frankfort Township Republicans, my table of Frankfort Township folks was there. And as we raised our family, our involvement was more sporadic, more associated with the elections. But as our kids grew and we could involve them in what they describe as the family business, we all worked on it together. And as my corporate career came to an end after 30 years, I was able to spend more time and became an elected official. And by the time I retire in next January, I will have been an elected official in Frankfort Township, Will County, and for the state of Illinois for 14 years. Oh my gosh, it was a lifetime. And when I look around the room, you know, and I think about how long I've known some of the folks, I can't even remember how long I've known some of you and worked with you. And it's a real honor and privilege. It's hard work. I will be happy to retire, although I'll miss the ability to serve all of you and to continue to fight for you. And I'm going to keep fighting like crazy between now and next January because God knows we need it down there. But one thing, you know, people always say they talk about young people or they talk about the state in a very discouraged way, and I always say no. Because one of the things you get to do when you're in this job is meet so many wonderful people that are doing things to improve our state, including my successor, Tim Ozinga. Yeah. So I'm never discouraged because I always have the opportunity to meet our young people, our future, and people that are going to come up to the front line where I am now and take over for me. So thank you so much, George, for this recognition, and all of you, and let's continue to fight for our state together. Thank you.
One last, and we named this award the Larry Rossi Award because Larry Rossi was someone who had literally dedicated each and every single year going out and working at the Will County Fairgrounds. He would man that post out there every single day that the county fair was going on without fail. Rain, sleet, snow, whatever, he was there without fail. And the gentleman became ill and we kind of separated, and we've had great people to step up in those places because he set the example I was able to actually name this award out last year and award it to a young man last year. But this year, the Larry Rossi Award is going to someone that has been my right hand within the Senate committee. And everyone is happy about the job that I'm doing, but I tell you now, I could not do it without Julie, who's standing beside me.
Thank you so much. I do have to tell you that George kind of tricked me the other night. He's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask you to do a bio for being the event chair. I'm like, you know, I don't even have a bio on my township page as supervisor. I just don't do it. And I'm like, who wants to read about me? So he's like, no, just do it for the event chair. Little did I know that it was for this. So I do want to thank everybody for all the support. I obviously could never do any of this without my husband, who has always been my rock and my solid support from the very, very beginning when he said somebody has to start infiltrating. And that was our goal. That was what we started to do, and I was the spokesperson that got out there and did it, and he's the one who helps me support in my family. So thank you very much for the support and for the loving everything, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
I would be remiss not to acknowledge a lot of our elected officials, and we've got a gentleman here that's got a list that he's going to just name off a couple great elected officials that we have here. One up here, Mr. John Anthony, one of our former state reps.
Well, good evening, Mr. Shackleford. Oh my God. You were amazing. Give him another round of applause. We need strong-willed people who are willing to fight and who know how to fight. Because well, George, what you called it the other day, we're wrestling in the mud with pigs. So we gotta know how to fight while we're wrestling in the mud with pigs. But I won't belabor the time. Now, I didn't write these names down. My name is John Anthony, former state representative for the 75th District. Now I have a radio show. So, tell me you've been at it. It's called Black and Right. I'm on WIND 560 The Answer. Please listen up. That's a shameless plug. George, thank you. Now, I didn't write these names, so bear with me on the enunciation of these names. All right, Frank Fly, thank you for your service. It's hard. It's a tough job. George Pearson.
Ruben Batman.
Oh, go ahead, Ruben. Go ahead. Uh-oh, this is Karen. He's
Sorry,
running.
that's my brother. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, you guys are awesome tonight. All right, sit down, Ruben. Get 2 seconds of fame. You guys were awesome. Wow.